Well, hello. This is Todd Giffen, and I'm broadcasting a pirated signal because the U.S. government is after me. I am the biggest targeted individual, and I am on their lists. I am being targeted with satellites. I am being watched. They have their directed energy weapons ready to explode my brain at any given time. And when, the president just got to say the word, and I'm dead. Or whoever's in control of their operations. So here's this update, and I haven't been an update in a while. When I know the inside of the government system, and I've recently come across some new information. I had an employee, ex-employee, a U.S. defense contractor, or contractor of the government, federal government. U.S. investigative services come forward to me and tell me, you're the first one outside of my group of people that knew about this. I know this exists. I saw it when I worked there. We had it. We talked about it. The government has this technology. If you look at my website, you'll learn about it. You look at the Russell Tice whistleblower article on remote neural monitoring electronic brain link. You'll learn about it. And I cannot give you any more information. She told me that she'd be charged with treason if anyone found out. And I have something, I have information to prove this. I have it, and I will give that to certain people, media, law firms, WikiLeaks. And I want you to look at my website some more, and I'm going to explain a few things for you. They have 30 plus satellites, military satellites, launched by the National Reconnaissance Office. Most of these are ELINT. ELINT is electronic intelligence. This is like signals intelligence, pretty much. And they've got a couple of signals intelligence satellites too, and they've got a couple of radar and optical and technology satellites. There's a whole big spectrum out there. Your body's emitting electromagnetic frequencies. The wires in the walls are your computers, your electrons, and anything. And there's electrons flowing throughout your body, all inside the neurons. There's some in your atoms too, but I don't know much about that. And so you're like a big light bulb from space to them. You're illuminating the inside of these buildings. Your brainwaves, their satellites can read your brainwaves, and they're imaging your neurons individually. Their satellites are actually 65,000 times more powerful today. The ones that are deployed today are that many times more powerful than Hubble was in 1990, because Moore's law predicts that technology doubles in capacity every 18 months, and that affects optical, that affects transistor counts, circuitry, sensors, which are based on these circuits and transistors and optics. So sensors, everything, the compute power gets that much more powerful, and optics gets that much more clear, much more high resolution. You're getting more resolution at a tinier and tinier amounts of space. So then you're going to be focusing on, they've got 30 fucking satellites watching us. What are they doing with them? Well, then you got to focus on the mind control stuff. You got to go back to the 50s and the 60s and realize that the government invested billions of dollars in MK Ultra, and they invested billions of dollars to compete with the Soviets, who also invested billions of dollars. And there's articles all about this. There was just a psychotronic weapons article on Slashdot. It was RT that released information. Maybe someone else gave it to them about Soviets investing all this money, right, in this. The U.S. government competing with them. There's a patent in the U.S. from a guy named Malik using radar systems to read brainwaves, broadcasting radio signals that from multiple points to a single location inside your brain or your body, and it lets the signals kind of intertwine with one another. It produces what's called a difference wave, or a, so you got one here's what it is. You broadcast one signal at 1 gigahertz and another signal at 1 gigahertz and 20 megahertz, and the difference between the two waves is 20 megahertz or 20 hertz. It's going to create a wave that's similar to the brain's own signature inside of you at 20 hertz, and that's how it works. And those energies are going to interact with your brain frequencies too and create signals that could be also read. But it's redundant. You don't need to do it like that, because the brain signals, if you can see each individual neuron without doing that, you know, and you can separate each person from another. Let's just say the satellite up in space can, watching you from overhead, keeps you all separately. It's going to be able to read those original brainwaves without that, but it also says you can manipulate the brain signals using that same technique. 1975 patent by Malak, and it says doctors could be behind, a doctor at an Oregon State Hospital would be using this, spying on this patient unwittingly to remotely diagnose and everything. Crazy, huh? Same thing that happened to me. It makes you, this patent's been around so long, so you know these doctors are corrupt shit. You know, they're into psych experimentation and crazy brain stuff, you know. All the stuff from years ago, they used to use mental health patients for experimentation, lobotomies, brain-computer interfaces, and drugging them and other stuff to learn about the brain. All that stuff is still around today. They're just really good at keeping it under wraps. It's all they've made a package where it's all about medical stuff and treatment when it's really about mind control. It's always been about mind control. So they're still just as savvy as they always used to be. I want to describe, there's another patent from 1998 on the mind reading from space for communication purposes. It says any number of extra additions that aren't listed in the patent, and I think they hid the fact that the satellite could do this. They didn't want to mention it too obviously, and they wanted to cover everything, you know, whether it's an implant or it's a local electrode. The satellite could be the electrode on the person. It's just very far away. There's really no difference between the amount of distance. The signal, light travels. You could see a light bulb from very far away. If it's burning 2 miles away, you could usually see it. And that's the same thing with the human and the neurons. And that energy, radio energy, of course, ultra low frequency travels through walls, so it's not like a building protects you. There's nothing that protects you, shields you. But anyway, that patent is pretty amazing. It says it has remote firing devices to control the brain. They can see what you're thinking in the patent. They can also see if you're depressed or hungry or have Alzheimer's effects, remote diagnosis, and then using the remote firing devices to control your brain. Just like the remote brain-computer interface was your brain sending signals into it, trying to make you feel not depressed or not hungry or whatever. No pills necessary. And it says like an agent could be hungry, maybe. If they had like a CIA agent trapped somewhere, maybe they could use this on them to make it so she's not hungry when she's being tortured or something. Crazy, huh? It says an agent in East Afghanistan, the Pentagon could get her thoughts and know what she's thinking without her saying or writing it down. So the Pentagon would get to spy on you that way. And if they did it, if let's just say they did that without the person's knowledge, they could really do this on anybody, including citizens in America, just spying on them, their brain waves and their thoughts, what they see, hear, think, and feel. Every brain, it's called a brain node, is monitorable, and the brain node is really a network, like a group of neurons in your brain doing a task, you know, like your prefrontal cortex, or your visual cortex, or your audio cortex, or your stuff for sensing, you know, or your muscle control, your heartbeat, or your, you know, you've also got neurons all over your body and your eyes and your ears and in your skin and your muscles, which are generating signals too. They could see if your neurons are generating pain signals or tickle signals or whatever, burning, hot, cold, whatever. And these remote firing devices can pretty much manipulate all these things. And I want to tell you about that. It's energy that it's actually directed at the individual neurons, not or atoms. Atoms are neurons, not the brain as a whole. Because you got to control each signal individually, and it all gets recombined by the brain and other parts, and that's how it really works. So when you're controlling something remotely, you got to focus on each individual neuron to get the signal to be picked up by the brain and each individual neuron. So, and I wanted to point out to people who are, there's really no difference between the neurons and like atoms and any other thing. So when signals intelligence is, you're directing signals at the atoms in, say, an antenna or a neuron, there's no difference. So you're directing energy at the atoms, which changes the electrical properties or the signals of the atoms, and that affects the signals of the neuron. And anyway, it's just, that's really how it works. And I also want to tell you about voice-to-skull patent. That's another patent that doesn't rely on the brain manipulation stuff. Instead, it focuses on your actual tissue, the atoms in the tissue, contraction and expansion to create sound waves inside your body, and it gets using thermal energy. So they'll direct microwaves at a person to make them hear or see, to hear something. And so when the microwaves penetrate your skull, they'll absorb in the bones. But the energy absorbs in the bone and the soft tissue, creating sound waves that travel to your cochlea, your ear, and where your ear will then pick up the signals and you'll hear the sound. And I'm comparing that to a tin can with a string. The reason only you hear it is because those waves are traveling through your tissue, and so that's the reason why you only hear it. It's a tin can and a string. You talk into one side of the can, and it travels through the string, and you can't hear it otherwise, and it goes to the other can, right? Over long range distance too, I think. So it's the same type of principles on the way. Vibrations traveling through an object. Created by microwaves. Microwaves encoded with an audio signal. That's how it works. And an audio signal could have speech. That's why it's called voice to skull. And the military's patent is from 1996 and then 2002. There's two different ones. And they invented this to beam voices into people's heads as a weapon. And they wanted to use it on people that they were going to war with, for example. They said we could beam voices in their head and tell them to surrender. And well, they don't go to war too often, and they probably use it all the time though. And when they don't go to war though, they end up using it on their own people too. Like, I don't really know. I just have ideas about why they use it on their own people here in America. There's thousands of people reporting this. There's a newspaper article in the Washington Post about it. It's called Mind Games, and there's legitimate victims. And this technology is passed down to the police, and the police use it on people. And they go around harassing people with it, and they abuse them, and they set them to look mentally ill, and especially the vulnerable people. And then there's the subliminal stuff they do, or the things that they do that you don't even notice when you're being manipulated. The secret stuff, the stuff that they do to get you to do something, or change your mind about something, or whatever, and you don't even know you're being manipulated. And we don't even know how many people that's happened to. But what if the government was doing that? And they have the capability to do it to anybody. Now, the remote nerve manipulation patent, the remote neural monitoring electronic brain link, that's the big one. That's the one that they can actually manipulate your brain and your dreams. They can control your dreams and run simulations at night. Video, audio, sensations, and they can tap things. Your subconscious could be manipulated without you knowing it. They could get you to sit down here when you don't even know that you wouldn't normally sit down. They might have you sit next to an agent and she introduce herself and you don't know it's an agent. Yeah, I've had it happen. Mostly as abuse practices all around Eugene, Springfield. Agents who gang stalked me in 2010, 2011. We had a lot of interactions, and they might get me to think that, oh, I'm just gonna change. I don't usually do this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and sit here anyway, just for fun, like a change of whatever, change of behavior, do something a little different. So I sat next to her, and then I realized who she was after, she was expecting me to go and talk to her, and she was doing things, and then she stormed off looking kind of angry, like she knew all my thoughts when I was going through this, because I kind of pretended I was going to use the technology on her too as a joke. Maybe I was subliminally feeling aggression towards her. And she's probably going to watch this too. She doesn't give a crap. All in my head. But I was just thinking, she could be watching this video. It's like, oh, I never got to talk to that guy face to face. but people all over town, they got plants everywhere, businesses, police. These people control from the highest up to government. Signals intelligence, this spy technology, they've all got city officials, governor, president, congressmen, senators, various doctors, universities. I mean, there's people that know, and these are agents. They're all over the place. So I had the girl confirm it's real. She did that to help me. She obviously wanted me to know off the record so that I could tell people, so I didn't look crazy, because she knows what's going on. And wow, U.S. Investigative Services. So the NSA's got this, and the FBI use it too, and the CIA, Department of Defense is probably the ultimate guys running the show. I don't know who's running the show. NSA is under the Department of Defense. So I hope this video is better than my previous ones. I do suffer bad brain injury. I've been found to have consistent high CK in my blood from the injuries. I forgot to say, this one thing is the weapon has other capabilities. When they're directing energy at you, those are photons. Those are create a river of photons through your body. They could do a lot of things besides nerve and energy manipulation. But that's what it all is, the basic level, but you might experience it as the effect of heating or chilling. Just like microwaves are known to heat and chill things. And then there's expansion and then contraction. There's an undocumented effect of the voice-to-skull weapon is if they directed this at your balls or your different tissue, they create vibrations and tingles there if they wanted to. Heating, causing expansion and contractions in your muscles and tissue. Massage sensation. I mean, energy can do a lot of things. It can tear things up. It can cut things. It can break down the molecular bonds. Whatever the effect is that they're going for. Anyway, so when you hear someone talking about this, very high, you have no way of ruling it out because our government's crazy shit. Some people it's obvious, but most people like me or Aaron, Alexis, and they're complaining about being spied on all of a sudden or something's going on. These are legit complaints, and the government has this, the police have it. They refuse to help on purpose because they protect each other, and they got doctors working in emergency rooms. They're trained to keep everything secret and refuse to diagnose properly, and they do other things. If they don't get the right diagnosis, if the doctor acts like you're crazy on purpose, he protects himself, his fellow doctors, and the government. And he might have a backdoor research relationship somewhere down the road, or when he was in school or something else, it's still ongoing. It's seriously like that. It could be more organized. Maybe the government came to it and said, look, this is going to happen, just keep it secret, And so Sacred Heart, Riverbend, and Eugene, and Mackenzie Willamette, they did all these things to me. They even helped them fake inject me with GPS and refuse treatment and crazy little things. And the nurses were watching me funny. They all know me. And they would seriously let me die rather than save me. And they would participate in this and help the government keep it all secret. And they could all go to prison and get death penalties for it if anyone found out. That's the incentive to keep it secret. There is no rules protecting them, no laws, and they can't pass them. I mean, all the rules, that's why they keep it secret. And I've heard a lot of stuff from other people, too, about this. I mean, they know it exists. They know they can see it here through walls, okay? And they say it's even illegal. But it's illegal, but they still use it. That's the problem. And it's not just satellites either. I want you to be aware that anything remote from your location could be used. Really tiny objects in cars, even in cars and in places installed in buildings and antenna systems. It's all over the place. But unless you're part of their game, unless you're an agent, you don't know about it. It's the government, it's the public that doesn't know. The public is not being told anything about classified or top secret stuff. They're keeping everything a secret. And everything is a game of misinforming the public on purpose so they never figure anything out. And it's illegal. And they say it's for national security. They say it's for a purpose, but it's not. It's just so that they could be above you and have power over everybody else and get away with things. And that's even our U.S. attorneys do it, and our judges do it. And our judges are authorizing surveillance programs and intelligence operations, and they're participating, they're feeling this and letting it happen. And you would never know if someone like me would get fucked over by a judge who would deliberately sabotage the process. There would be guards involved, there would be people, the district attorney doing that, and even at times public defenders who are aware of it, and holding your head underwater, in secret while, you get hurt, and refusing to do anything, because they don't want anyone to find out. And there is a lot of this going on. If you know too much, they do it. If you are a target, they do it. They've got a lot of backdoor relationships. It's corruption. So I hope this video is better than my previous one, and I hope you understand voice to skull and to promote your brain stuff better, and realize that there's, I don't know, just let me think if there's anything else. That just read my website, and please, people, start thinking that this is going on. And Russell Tice says he used space capability on us, and this is what the space capability is. There's remote sensors and terrestrial nodes watching and recording everything. And yeah, they're tapping our phones, they're watching your internet, they know your when you talk into Facebook, yeah, they're getting your thoughts from Facebook so they can learn how to control and manipulate people. They love it when you talk into a telephone and you act all stupid and stuff. They want to hear everything you have to say so they can watch you, and they can have stuff to use against you, or let them control you. And Edward Snowden was saying this: child born today has no conception of privacy, and they will not have an unanalyzed thought or communication, and that's what's going on. And Edward Snowden is the bravest man you've ever seen out there, because without him and whistleblowers, we would know nothing, and he risked it all to show America what this shit was about, so that we would have a way to defend ourselves, so that we would understand and try to break free from this. This is literally a mind control program for the American public. This is them feeding us information and learning how to control us and watching our every move so that they can do whatever they want to us. And so, better listen to Edward Snowden, and better start fighting this, because they're never going to give up their control unless we revolt and fight this. And there's going to continue to be people who are going to get killed, and there's going to be, these weapons could automate mass human extinction if they want to. They could just start popping our heads with their electromagnetic weapons. They have a whole defense system set up to do it. They've got strategic defense initiative, energy weapons in space and all over the place to target whatever object they want. And they say it's for defense, but it's for any object they want. And digital electronic system, it's like it's targeting this person, that one, instantly. Hundreds of people at once, just popping their heads if they wanted to. Popping buildings. They destroyed the World Trade Center. If you look at Dr. Judy Wood's work, using this Star Wars beam weapon. And Star Wars is a term by the media for the defense, strategic defense initiative, the weapons. Star Wars is the name of that program. So they got those weapons, and they deacified the World Trade Center after it got smashed with planes. Right? Watch the 2-hour video on our website. It's pretty impressive, and look over the evidence, and you start to learn more. You're like, wow, what if that really did happen? And then you look at the evidence and you say, well, it looks like that's what really happened. And the evidence is pretty darn hard to refute. And this is a forensic investigation. It's not some quack investigation. She did thorough investigation. The only forensic investigation of that incident. So, drjudywood.com. Energy weapon evidence. That's what it is to me. And they could target people with those same systems. Look at it. And there's no ban in America. That Department of Defense gave a comment that it was going to be banned by the Space Preservation Act 2001. But Dennis Kucinich, Department of Defense, gave an unfavorable executive comment, and the whole bill was killed. And they didn't even get to vote on it. And that's because they probably got a bunch of weapons up in space they didn't want to take away or take down, and they wanted to, all that wasted money, and they wanted to have weapons and power over people. Like, no. So The only reason they wouldn't pass a bill like that is because they got the weapons and they were going to use them. They wanted to use them on people. And they're crazy. They don't believe in peace. They don't believe in they believe in war. They don't believe in working with people and, you know, peaceful resolutions for, you know, and equal protection for everybody. They want to be in power and keep themselves in power. And it's crazy. Okay, well, Todd Giffen, ObamasWeapon.com. I'm signing off.